A conversation that was supposed to be about compassion and understanding became a masterclass in how not to behave when you are a guest on someone else's show. This is the story of a television moment that shocked millions, where a host stood her ground and a guest forgot where she was. The stage was set on a bright Tuesday morning. The studio audience buzzed with excitement, phones tucked away, ready to witness what was being promoted as the interview of the season. Meghan Markle walked onto the set of The View with confidence, smiling at the crowd, waving like she owned the place. The applause was warm, but not overwhelming. The co-hosts greeted her with the usual pleasantries, but it was Sunny Hostin who would be leading this particular segment. Sunny Hostin, known for her sharp legal mind and no-nonsense approach, sat across from Meghan with a welcoming smile. The two exchanged greetings, and for a moment, everything seemed perfectly normal. The cameras rolled, the lights were bright, and the audience settled in. "Welcome to The View," Sunny said warmly, her hands folded neatly on the table. "We are so glad to have you here today." Meghan smiled, adjusting herself in her seat. "Thank you for having me. It is wonderful to be here." The conversation started smoothly enough. Sunny asked about Meghan's recent projects, her charity work, and her thoughts on various social issues. Meghan answered with rehearsed grace, delivering sound bites that seemed polished and prepared. But then, Sunny shifted gears. She leaned forward slightly, her voice still kind, but now carrying a bit more weight. "I want to talk about something that I think a lot of people are curious about," Sunny began. "You have spoken a lot about your experiences and your truth. But there are also people who have different perspectives on those same events. How do you respond to those who feel that some of your statements have been inconsistent?" The question hung in the air. It was fair. It was journalistic. And it was exactly the kind of question a seasoned host should ask. But Meghan's smile faltered. Just for a second. Her eyes narrowed ever so slightly, and the warmth that had been there moments ago seemed to evaporate. "Inconsistent?" Meghan repeated, her tone sharp. "I think that is a really unfair characterization, Sunny. My truth is my truth, and just because some people do not want to believe it does not make it inconsistent." Sunny did not back down. She nodded calmly, her face neutral. "I understand that. But when public figures share their stories, especially on platforms as large as yours have been, it is natural for people to compare statements and timelines. I am not saying you are being dishonest. I am simply asking how you address those concerns." Meghan leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. The body language shift was noticeable. The studio felt different now, the energy tense. The audience, which had been so lively minutes earlier, was now silent, watching carefully. "You know what, Sunny," Meghan said, her voice rising slightly. I came here thinking this would be a respectful conversation, but it feels like you are trying to corner me. You are putting words in my mouth. You are twisting things." Sunny raised her eyebrows, clearly taken aback, but maintaining her composure. "Meghan, I am not twisting anything. I asked you a straightforward question. You are welcome to answer it however you like, but I am not attacking you." "Not attacking me?" Meghan scoffed, her face flushing. "You just accused me of being inconsistent on national television. How is that not an attack?" The other co-hosts exchanged glances. This was not going the way anyone had planned. Sunny, however, remained steady. She took a breath, clearly choosing her words carefully. "I did not accuse you of anything," Sunny said firmly, but not unkindly. "I asked you how you respond to a perception that exists. That is part of being interviewed. If you are not comfortable answering, that is okay. But please do not misrepresent what I said." Meghan stood up abruptly. The suddenness of the movement made the audience gasp. She pointed at Sunny, her hand shaking slightly. "You know what?" Meghan said loudly, her voice echoing through the studio. "I do not have to sit here and take this. I have been through enough. I have been scrutinized and criticized and torn apart by people who do not even know me. And now, you are doing the same thing. You are just like all the rest of them. Sunny stood up as well, her expression still calm, but now with a hint of disappointment. Meghan, I am not like anyone else. I am doing my job. I am asking you questions that the public wants answered. If you cannot handle that, then maybe you should not be doing interviews. The words landed like a bomb. The studio fell into complete silence. Even the crew members who had been moving around quietly froze. Meghan's face turned red, her jaw clenched. "Yen, how dare you?" Meghan hissed. "How dare you tell me what I can and cannot handle? You have no idea what I have been through. You sit here in your comfortable little chair with your comfortable little life, judging me." Sunny shook her head slowly. "This is not about judging you, Meghan. This is about accountability. You have a platform. You have influence. And with that comes responsibility. You do not get to pick and choose when you want to be questioned." Meghan laughed bitterly, throwing her hands up. "Accountability? Responsibility? You are lecturing me about responsibility? That is rich coming from someone who makes a living gossiping about other people's lives." The insult hung heavy in the air. The other co-hosts looked horrified. One of them tried to interject, to calm things down, but Sunny raised a hand, stopping her. "I am a legal analyst and a journalist," Sunny said, her voice low and controlled. "I do not gossip. I analyze. I question. And I hold people accountable. And if you think that asking you legitimate questions is gossip, then you have completely missed the point of what journalism is supposed to be." Meghan grabbed her purse from beside her chair. "I am done here," she announced. "I am not going to sit here and be disrespected like this. This is exactly why I do not do these kinds of shows anymore. You people are all the same." "You people," Sunny repeated, her eyebrows raising. "What exactly do you mean by that?" Meghan realized her mistake but doubled down. "I mean, journalists, hosts, people who pretend to care but really just want a headline." Sunny folded her arms. "If all you wanted was softball questions and praise, you should have gone on a different show. The View is about real conversations. We do not do puff pieces here. We ask hard questions because our audience deserves real answers." Meghan turned to leave, but Sunny was not finished. "And for the record," Sunny added, her voice steady and strong, "storming off when things get uncomfortable is exactly the kind of behavior that makes people question your credibility. If you cannot handle one tough question, how are people supposed to trust anything else you say?" Meghan spun around, her eyes blazing. "You do not get to talk to me like that. Do you know who I am?" Sunny did not flinch. "Yes, Meghan, we all know who you are. That is why you are here. But being famous does not mean you get to act however you want. You agreed to come on this show. You agreed to have a conversation. And part of that conversation is answering questions you might not like." The tension was unbearable. The cameras were still rolling, capturing every second of the meltdown. Meghan looked around the studio, perhaps realizing for the first time how bad this looked, but she was too far gone to stop now. "You are unbelievable," Meghan spat. "Absolutely unbelievable. I came here in good faith, and this is how you treat me? This is disgusting." Sunny sighed, a look of genuine sadness crossing her face. "Meghan, you came here to promote yourself, just like every other guest. That is fine, but you do not get to control the narrative completely. That's not how this works. I treat all of my guests with respect, but I also do my job, and my job is to ask questions." "Your job is to ambush people," Meghan shot back. "Your job is to make them look bad so you can feel superior." "Well, congratulations, Sunny. You got your moment. I hope you are proud of yourself." Sunny stepped closer, her voice dropping to a calm, almost gentle tone. "Meghan, I asked you one question. One. And you turned it into this. I did not ambush you. I did not attack you. I asked you to address something that people are genuinely curious about. And instead of answering, you accused me of twisting your words. You insulted my profession. And now you are having a tantrum on live television. So, who really made who look bad here? The words cut deep. Meghan opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. She looked at the other co-hosts, perhaps hoping for backup, but they all looked away. No one was coming to her defense. This was her mess, and she was alone in it. "I want to leave," Meghan finally said, her voice smaller now, less confident. "I do not want to be here anymore." Sunny nodded. "Then leave. No one is stopping you. But understand that walking out right now sends a very clear message about who you are and how you handle adversity." Meghan hesitated. For a brief moment, it looked like she might sit back down, like she might try to salvage the situation. But pride, or maybe fear, got the better of her. She straightened her shoulders, lifted her chin, and walked toward the exit. "This is a joke," Meghan muttered as she passed the cameras. "This whole thing is a joke." Sunny watched her go, her expression unreadable. When the studio door finally closed behind Meghan, Sunny turned back to the camera, taking a deep breath. "Well," Sunny said, her voice returning to its professional tone, "that was unexpected. We invited Meghan here for an honest conversation, and unfortunately, she was not ready for that. We will take a quick break, and when we come back, we will discuss what just happened." The studio lights dimmed slightly as they cut to commercial. The audience sat in stunned silence, still processing what they had just witnessed. Sunny sat back down at the table, her co-hosts immediately turning to her. "Are you okay?" one of them asked quietly. Sunny nodded, though she looked tired. "I am fine. I just asked her a question. I did not expect that reaction." Another co-host shook her head in disbelief. She completely lost it. Over one question. That was wild. Sunny looked at the empty chair where Meghan had been sitting just moments before. "I think she came here expecting us to go easy on her, but that is not what we do. We ask real questions, and if she cannot handle that, then maybe she should not be in the public eye." Backstage, Meghan was pacing furiously, her publicist trying to calm her down. But Meghan was beyond reason. She was angry, embarrassed, and defensive. "Did you see how she treated me?" Meghan demanded. "Did you see that? She ambushed me. She set me up." Her publicist tried to speak, but Meghan kept going. "I should sue her. I should sue the whole show. This is defamation. This is slander." "Meghan," the publicist said gently, "she just asked you a question. You were the one who escalated it." Meghan glared at her. "Whose side are you on?" "I am on your side," the publicist replied. "But I am also trying to help you see this clearly. You walked off a major television show because you did not like one question. That is going to be the headline. That is what people are going to remember." Meghan slumped into a chair, the fight draining out of her. "I just wanted them to be nice to me," she said quietly. "I just wanted them to understand." "Then you should have answered the question," the publicist said. "You should have stayed calm and explained yourself. But instead, you made it about you versus her. And now, everyone is going to think you have something to hide." Back in the studio, the show returned from commercial break. Sunny and the other co-hosts sat at the table, the atmosphere still charged. "Welcome back," Sunny said, looking directly at the camera. "As you all just saw, our interview with Meghan Markle did not go as planned. I want to be very clear about what happened. I asked her a fair question about how she addresses criticism and inconsistencies in her public statements. That is a question any public figure should expect. Her reaction was her choice." One of the co-hosts jumped in. "I think a lot of people saw that and were shocked. I mean, we have had tough interviews before, but I have never seen someone just walk off like that." Sunny nodded. "It was surprising, but I think it also says something important. If you put yourself out there, if you tell your story and ask people to believe you, you have to be willing to answer questions about it. And you cannot just shut down when someone asks you to clarify something." Another co-host added, And the way she spoke to you, Sunny, that was disrespectful. You were doing your job, and she made it personal. Sunny smiled faintly. I appreciate that. Look, I do not take it personally. I have been doing this long enough to know that not everyone is going to like my questions. But my job is not to make guests feel comfortable. My job is to get to the truth. And if that makes people uncomfortable, so be it. The audience applauded, and Sunny looked genuinely moved by the support. She had stood her ground, asked the tough question, and refused to be bullied or manipulated. She had done exactly what a good journalist is supposed to do. I hope Meghan is okay, Sunny continued. I really do. But I also hope she takes some time to reflect on what happened here today. Because if you cannot handle being questioned, if you cannot handle accountability, then you're going to have a very hard time in the public eye. The show moved on to other topics, but the damage was done. The moment had been captured, recorded, and would soon be replayed over and over again. Social media exploded within minutes. Clips of the confrontation spread like wildfire. People dissected every word, every gesture, every facial expression. Most of the commentary sided with Sunny. People praised her for staying calm, for asking important questions, for not backing down. They criticized Meghan for her outburst, for her inability to handle even the slightest pushback, for her entitled attitude. In the green room after the show, Sunny sat quietly, scrolling through her phone. Her co-hosts came in one by one, offering their support and congratulations. You handled that perfectly, one of them said. I do not know how you stayed so calm. Sunny shrugged. I just did my job. That is all I ever try to do. Well, you did it brilliantly, another co-host said. And I think the audience saw that. They saw who the real professional was in that situation. Sunny smiled, feeling a mix of relief and exhaustion. It had been an intense few minutes, but she had come out on the other side with her integrity intact. She had asked a tough question, faced an angry response, and never wavered. That was what mattered. Meanwhile, Meghan sat in her car, staring out the window. Her publicist sat beside her, silent. The reality of what had just happened was starting to sink in. She had walked off one of the biggest daytime talk shows in America. She had insulted the host. She had lost her temper on live television. What do we do now? Meghan asked quietly. The publicist sighed. We try to do damage control. But honestly, Meghan, this is bad. This is really bad. You made yourself look like you cannot handle criticism. And that is exactly what your critics have been saying all along. Meghan closed her eyes, fighting back tears. I just wanted them to be on my side. The View is not about taking sides, the publicist said gently. It is about having conversations, real conversations. And you were not ready for that. Back at the studio, the producers were already planning how to handle the fallout. They knew this moment would be talked about for days, maybe weeks. It was the kind of television that people could not stop watching, the kind that made headlines and drove ratings. But for Sunny, it was not about the headlines or the ratings. It was about doing her job with integrity. It was about asking the questions that needed to be asked, even when they were uncomfortable. It was about holding people accountable, no matter who they were. As the day wore on, the story only grew bigger. News outlets picked it up. Commentators weighed in. The video went viral. And through it all, one thing became crystal clear. Sunny Hostin had done nothing wrong. She had asked a fair question, maintained her professionalism, and refused to be intimidated. Meghan Markle, on the other hand, had shown the world exactly what happens when privilege meets accountability and cannot handle it. The interview that was supposed to be a friendly conversation had turned into a masterclass in contrasts. On one side, a seasoned journalist who knew her worth and her role. On the other, a guest who expected to be coddled and praised without challenge. The collision was inevitable, and the result was devastating for one and vindicating for the other. In the end, it was not Sunny who had kicked Meghan off The View. Meghan had kicked herself off. She had made the choice to walk away rather than face a simple question. She had made the choice to attack rather than answer. She had made the choice to let her ego and her entitlement control her actions, and those choices had consequences that would follow her for a long time. Sunny, for her part, went home that night knowing she had done the right thing. She had stood up for journalistic integrity. She had refused to let anyone, no matter how famous or powerful, bully her into backing down. And she had shown millions of viewers what real professionalism looks like, even in the face of an explosive meltdown. The next morning, the story was still everywhere. The video had been watched millions of times. Think pieces were being written. People were debating what had happened and who was right. But for those who had watched it unfold in real time, there was no debate. They had seen a host doing her job and a guest who could not handle it. They had seen grace under pressure and entitlement exposed. They had seen exactly what happens when someone used to being treated with kid gloves finally meets someone who refuses to do so. And in that moment, in those 39 seconds that changed everything, the truth became undeniable. Not all guests are ready for real conversations. Not all fame comes with the ability to handle scrutiny, and not all interviews end the way they are supposed to. Sometimes they end with a dramatic exit, a shocked studio, and a host who stood her ground no matter what. What made the exchange even more remarkable was how completely Meghan misread the situation. She had come expecting soft treatment, nodding heads, and sympathetic faces. She expected to be able to say whatever she wanted without being challenged. But The View was not that kind of show, and Sunny Hostin was not that kind of host. The way Meghan immediately became defensive revealed so much. Instead of taking a moment to think, instead of calmly explaining her perspective, she went straight to offense. She accused Sunny of twisting her words before Sunny had barely finished speaking. She made it personal when it was never personal to begin with. And when Meghan said those words, "Do you know who I am?" it crystallized everything. That question revealed the heart of the problem. Meghan believed that her status, her title, her fame should protect her from accountability. She believed that being who she was meant she deserved special treatment. But Sunny was having none of it. The studio audience understood this immediately. They did not applaud when Meghan walked off. They did not boo Sunny. They sat in stunned silence, watching a person completely unravel over something so small. They watched someone who preaches about kindness and compassion show neither of those qualities when she was even slightly challenged. The contrast could not have been starker. One woman conducting herself with grace and professionalism. Another woman falling apart because she could not control the narrative. One woman standing firm in her principles. Another woman running away when things got difficult. What was perhaps most frustrating was that the question itself was so benign. If Meghan had simply said something like, "I understand that some people see inconsistencies, but I have always been truthful," the whole thing would have been over in 30 seconds. The interview would have continued. There would have been no drama, no headlines, no viral moment. The way the other co-hosts rallied around Sunny after the incident spoke volumes. They did not try to both sides it, and they did not suggest that maybe Sunny had been too harsh.